"Can I borrow your dress for my graduation?" The poor girl asked softly, her voice trembling with both hope and shame, unaware he was a CEO millionaire, a man whose signature alone could buy every boutique in the city. She stood before him in a faded blouse and worn jeans, clutching her torn school bag like a shield, while he, immaculate suit, polished shoes, driver waiting outside, simply stared at her, caught between disbelief and something deeper. She thought she was speaking to an ordinary man passing by, someone who could at least direct her to the nearest thrift store, but what he did next would shake the entire auditorium, bring the crowd to silent awe, and leave every witness asking, why would a CEO millionaire give so much to a girl who only wanted to borrow a dress? Who was she to him really? And what secret did he see in her that she herself did not know? He first noticed her the way a tired heart recognizes softness. Unexpected, unannounced, impossible to ignore. No one ever approached Andrew Coleman with requests like that. Meetings, proposals, mergers, yes. But a dress? From a stranger who didn't even know his last name? She caught him outside the public library, where she often sat for free Wi-Fi to complete assignments. Her eyes were wide, brown, searching, hopeful. She smelled faintly of laundry soap and rain. The city wind tugged at her ponytail, and her backpack, threadbare, faded, stitched in places, looked like it carried every burden she had ever survived. Her name was Grace Holloway, a name she said with quiet dignity even when everything about her screamed scarcity. Grace was graduating with the highest GPA in her university, yet she had no dress, no shoes, no photographer, no celebration waiting at home. Her father had disappeared when she was 8, her mother worked double shifts as a diner cashier, and her younger siblings shared one mattress between them. Grace's future was meant to be bright, but she lived in a world where brilliance and poverty did not always agree. Andrew listened without interrupting, not because he pitied her but because her courage stunned him. Most people hid their struggle behind pride. Grace laid hers on the table like truth. "I just need a dress," she said timidly. "Even a simple one. Something clean, maybe blue. I'll return it. I promise. I want to feel worthy for one day." Her voice cracked and Andrew felt it. He didn't know why she, of all people, stirred something dormant in him. Something like memory, maybe something like debt to the universe. It wasn't the dress she wanted, it was dignity. A moment to be seen. A chance at life without lack clinging to her like shadow. He could have told her right then who he was, CEO of Coleman Industries, net worth $112 million, youngest tech executive in the state, boardroom mastermind, magazine feature regular, but he didn't. Instead he leaned closer, studying her. "Why ask me?" he asked quietly. She shrugged. "You looked kind." Kind. A word he had not been called in years. He remembered being poor like her once. Mother folding thrift store clothes, him resizing shoes with newspaper, him asking quietly for help and being told no. Maybe that was the real reason he couldn't walk away. In Grace he saw himself before success hardened him. Andrew exhaled. "Come with me." Grace hesitated. He was a stranger after all, but something in his voice felt safe. He did not take her to a thrift store. He drove her in a black Lexus to Vivian Couture, one of the most expensive fashion houses in the city. The doorman greeted Andrew by name, bowing slightly. Grace froze, confusion overtaking her features. You come here often?" Andrew only smiled. Inside, chandeliers glowed like captured stars. Silk gowns shimmered like water. Shoes sparkled like dreams. Grace's lips parted in disbelief. This was not a place poor girls entered, let alone touched. Andrew spoke to the manager with effortless authority. "I need a full graduation styling. Dress, shoes, hair, nails, photography, jewelry. Elegant, timeless. Price is not a conversation." Grace spun toward him, panicked. No, that's too much, I can't pay." Andrew stepped closer, voice calm but firm. "You said you wanted to feel worthy for one day. Let me give you one day." She stared at him, tears gathering, voice barely a whisper. "What? You don't even know me." He looked at her for a long, still moment. "You remind me of who I used to be," he almost said. But instead he told her something different, something safer. Because everyone deserves to feel seen. And as she stood there, surrounded by luxury she never dreamed she'd touch, unaware that a CEO millionaire was building something far bigger for her than a borrowed dress, the real question surfaced quietly like destiny. Who was Grace Holloway, to inspire such generosity from a man who owed the world nothing? And what would happen when the truth of his identity finally collided with her gratitude? The evening before graduation felt like the world had shifted on its axis, softly, but enough for Grace to feel it in her bones. Her graduation gown hung near the window in her tiny shared bedroom, but it was no longer the centerpiece of excitement. The true miracle lay inside the garment bag from Vivienne Couture, shimmering faintly like a secret only she and Destiny knew. The royal blue satin dress, fitted yet angelic, was the kind of garment girls saw on magazines, not on discount racks. She touched it again, fingers trembling. She still didn't understand why Andrew, a stranger, was doing all this. She only knew she could not repay him, not with money at least. When he dropped her off that night, he offered her something else, something she hadn't expected. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "I'd like to be there. If that's okay." Grace blinked, stunned. "You want to attend my graduation?" Andrew tilted his head slightly, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "Unless you'd rather I didn't." "No, please come," she blurted quickly, cheeks warm. I'd be grateful. Truly." He nodded once, slow, meaningful. But what Grace didn't know was that Andrew rarely attended anything outside work. He skipped charity galas, ribbon-cutting events, investor dinners, but for her he found himself willing. He hadn't felt this way in years. Not since before success taught him to guard his world like a fortress. That night, he lay awake in his penthouse, top floor, skyline burning beneath him, thinking about her. The girl with hope in her voice and hunger in her eyes. The girl who asked for a dress instead of a handout. The girl who reminded him of the one person he'd lost too soon, his older sister Lily. Lily had been brilliant like Grace, full of light and fire, but life had been cruel. Their mother struggled, bills piled up, and Lily dropped out of college to work 2 jobs. She died in a car accident at 23, months before Andrew landed his first investor. She never saw him succeed. Never saw his billboards. Never wore luxury. She died uncelebrated it. And Grace, standing in front of him yesterday with sincerity and needs so similar to Lily's, reopened a wound success never healed. Helping Grace felt like honoring Lily. Like rewriting a past he could not undo. Tomorrow, he told himself, wouldn't just be Grace's graduation, it would be redemption. By morning, the city felt crystalline with possibility. Grace's siblings woke early to watch her dress. Her mother, exhausted from the night shift, stood frozen when she saw the gown, hand to her mouth, tears sliding silently. "Grace," she whispered, overwhelmed. "Baby, where did you get this?" Grace hesitated, a lie felt dirty in her throat, the truth too unbelievable. "A friend helped me," she said softly. "A kind one." Her mother hugged her tightly, smelling of coffee beans and diner grease, love woven into every tired breath. For the first time in years, Grace felt beautiful, not because of the dress, but because her mother looked at her like a future instead of survival. Graduation hall burst with life. Cameras flashing, families cheering, pride filling every seat like warm air. Students glowed in fresh outfits, polished shoes, confident smiles. Grace walked in, blue dress flowing like water, and silence fell around her in slow waves. People turned. Whispers rose. "Is that Grace Holloway? Where did she get that gown? She looks like she owns the stage." But she didn't care about whispers. She was searching the crowd for one face, his. Andrew stood near the back, tailored navy suit, posture calm but attentive. He looked like he wasn't just observing the ceremony, he was witnessing her. When their eyes met, he offered a small nod, not pity, not charity, but recognition. As though he knew how far she'd come, even if she never told him. Grace felt her heart flutter. Not with romance, yet, but with something deeper. Trust. The ceremony began, names echoing through the auditorium. When Grace's was called. Valedictorian, Grace Holloway. She stepped forward, dress catching the lights like sapphire flame. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. She inhaled, hands trembling around her speech note. "I stand here today," she began slowly, voice steadier than she felt, "grateful for education, grateful for resilience, and grateful for the unexpected kindness of strangers." Her eyes drifted to Andrew. Because sometimes a single act of generosity can remind you that your dreams are valid, even when your circumstances try to silence them. Gasps whispered through the hall. Some students smiled, some looked bewildered. They didn't know she meant him. They didn't know a millionaire was sitting quietly in the audience, heart pounding in his chest as though he too was being seen. But Grace didn't know the real storm brewing. 2 rows behind Andrew sat someone neither expected to see today, Lucas Dane, Grace's ex-boyfriend. The man who once told her she'd never make it to graduation. The one who left her for someone wealthier. And he recognized Andrew instantly. Because Lucas once interned at Coleman Industries. And he knew exactly who Andrew was. The CEO. The millionaire. The man Grace believed was just a kind stranger. Lucas leaned forward, jaw tight, eyes narrowing. If Grace didn't know the truth, Lucas was about to make sure she found out his way. The applause faded into hallway chatter, camera clicks, congratulations, and proud families gathering like constellations. Grace held her diploma to her chest, still overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. She scanned the crowd for Andrew. She wanted to thank him properly this time, not with trembling confusion, but with clarity, dignity, meaning. He stood near a tall marble pillar, hands in his pockets, watching her with quiet pride. She walked toward him slowly, like she couldn't believe he was real, like she feared if she blinked, he would vanish along with the miracle he had given her. "Thank you," she whispered when she reached him. Simple words, but they carried every struggle, every night she studied on an empty stomach, every moment she thought she'd fail. Andrew held her gaze. "You earned this day, Grace. I only gave you a dress. The rest you fought for." Her eyes glistened. She didn't know whether she wanted to hug him or cry or simply stand there breathing the same air. Nobody had ever believed in her without asking for something in return. But before the moment could settle into stillness, a voice sliced through the air like cold metal. "Well, isn't this sweet?" Grace stiffened. Andrew's jaw tightened. Lucas Dane stepped forward with a mocking smile, hands tucked casually into his suit pockets. He looked expensive, groomed, confident, exactly the kind of man Grace once thought she needed to escape poverty. He left her when she couldn't keep up with his luxury standards, breaking her heart like it cost him nothing. Grace swallowed hard. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm just here to congratulate the valedictorian," he said, tone dripping sarcasm. "I never knew all it took was borrowing a dress and a rich man to get you shining like this." Andrew's eyes sharpened, not with anger but with a dangerous calm. Grace stiffened. "The dress doesn't make me." Lucas raised a finger. "Actually, it does. And you may want to choose your company more wisely, Grace." He leaned close, voice low, delighted at the punch he was about to deliver. "Do you even know who he is?" Grace blinked. "He's Andrew. A friend." Lucas laughed. Ugly, triumphant. "Andrew?" "Try Andrew Coleman. CEO of Coleman Industries. Net worth over $100 million. This man is practically royalty in our city." People around them turned. Whispers scattered like wildfire. "What?" Grace breathed, stepping back from Andrew in shock she couldn't contain. Lucas smirked. "He's not just some nice guy with a car. He's a millionaire CEO. And you didn't even know. Pathetic, really?" Her heart thundered. She looked at Andrew, desperate for truth, for denial, for something to hold on to. And Andrew, silent, regret in his eyes, confirmed everything without a word. He didn't hide anymore. "I wanted you to know me as a human first," he said quietly. "Not a headline. Not a bank account." Lucas scoffed, rounding on Grace. "So tell me, Grace, did you fall for him too? Is that your thing now? Trade men like tax brackets." The words hit her like a slap. Andrew stepped between them, voice sharp as steel. "That's enough. You walked away from her when she had nothing. You don't get to judge her now that she has dignity." Lucas's eyes flicked with fury. "You think money buys morality? You think dressing her up makes her your charity pet?" Grace's breath shook. "Stop." But Lucas wasn't done. "Do you know what's funny?" he said, cruel smile widening. "Grace once begged me for help. Not for a dress. Oh, much more humiliating." Andrew turned to Grace slowly. Grace's heart froze. Lucas continued, savoring every word. "She asked me to pay her graduation fee. You know what I told her?" He leaned in. "That she wasn't investment worthy." Grace felt her chest crack open. The hallway spun, faces, whispers, pity. She wanted to disappear. Andrew looked at her like she was fragile glass, like her pain mattered. She turned away, not from him but from the reminder of how painful her past was. "I didn't tell you," she whispered, voice breaking, "because I didn't want my story to be shame. I wanted today to be beautiful." Andrew's voice softened. "Grace, none of what happened to you diminishes who you are." Lucas scoffed. "Oh, please. Look at her. She's a charity project. A girl in a gown she didn't pay for." Grace's tears fell, not from weakness, but from emotion too heavy to contain. But what happened next stunned the entire hall. Andrew stepped forward, eyes burning with purpose. "She isn't a charity case. She's brilliance personified. And I'll prove it." He removed his CEO badge, a symbol of everything he'd built, and placed it gently in Grace's trembling hand. Gasps rippled through the room. Andrew's voice rang with meaning. "Today, Grace doesn't borrow anything. Not a dress. Not a future. From this moment, she chooses her life, her dreams, her worth. And I will stand with her, not above her. Lucas's smirk shattered. Grace stared at the badge, at the man who saw her, believed her. But she still trembled with the weight of it all. She had one more truth to face, a decision to make. And the moment she spoke, it would change everything. The auditorium doors reopened for evening awards, and the air felt different. Charged, expectant, like every person present could sense a destiny about to unfold. Grace stood on the stage where hours earlier she had delivered her valedictorian speech. But now all eyes watched her for a different reason. Not just the brilliant graduate in the stunning blue dress, but the girl holding the CEO badge of a millionaire like a burning choice in her palm. Andrew remained at the foot of the stage, gaze steady, patient, offering her power without forcing her hand. Lucas, jaw tense, hovered nearby like a storm desperate to reclaim control. Families, professors, dignitaries, everyone waited. Grace lifted her eyes to the audience, breath trembling, and spoke, not loudly, but so sincerely the room leaned in to catch every word. When I asked to borrow a dress, she began, voice clear despite her shiver, I never imagined that request would lead me here, standing between poverty and possibility, between who I was and who I'm allowed to become. Lucas scoffed from below. Allowed by him, you mean? No, Grace shook her head gently. Allowed by me. It was the first time in her life she said those words with ownership. Grace stepped closer to Andrew, still holding his badge. You helped me, she said softly. Not because I was broken, but because you saw I was worth more than what life gave me. You gave me dignity, not dependence. Andrew's hands tightened at his sides. Grace could see he was fighting emotion too. But I need you to know something, she continued, eyes shimmering. I don't want to be a girl who rises only because a wealthy man lifted her. I want to rise because I built myself, just like you did when no one believed in you. The room fell silent. For a moment they looked like two reflections, different beginnings but parallel hunger. Grace pressed the CEO badge back into his hand. Gasps rippled like waves. I can't accept your world, not yet, she said, voice steady but tender. But I want to earn my place in it. Not as someone carried, but as someone who stands beside you. Andrew stared at her as though the universe had just rewritten itself. Not disappointment. Not wounded pride. Something far stronger. Respect. Lucas stepped forward quickly, sensing his power slipping. You're a fool, Grace. You had a millionaire at your feet offering you a golden ticket and you handed it back. Grace turned to him with a calm he couldn't shake. I didn't hand anything back. I claimed myself. Something you never valued when you had me. Lucas's smirk faltered. Grace walked to the microphone again, a lone sapphire under the lights. I want an internship, she announced boldly. At Coleman Industries. No favors, no shortcuts. I want to work, learn, earn, and prove that a girl from nothing can become something without selling pieces of herself to do it. Andrew exhaled sharply, like the words struck somewhere deep. The chairman of the board, seated among dignitaries, rose slowly. If you want an internship, he said, voice rich with admiration, you have one. Applause erupted like thunder. Andrew's eyes glistened, not because she accepted him, but because she chose herself first. The very strength his sister Lily never got to show the world. He stepped onto the stage and extended his hand, not as a savior but as an equal. Grace took it. He didn't pull her close. He didn't declare love. He simply stood beside her, two stories woven by destiny, not transaction. Then, in a moment that would be replayed online, whispered through campus halls, and remembered by every soul who witnessed it, Andrew lifted her hand and spoke words that changed her life forever. This woman, he said, voice steady but full of awe, asked me for a borrowed dress. I gave her a gown. She returned it with a future. And today, not knowing I was a CEO, she reminded me that wealth means nothing if kindness has no home. The hall stilled, then exploded into applause. Grace closed her eyes as tears fell, not from pain, but from a joy so pure it washed the years of struggle from her lungs. Lucas slipped out quietly, defeated not by money but by character. Andrew turned to her, voice soft enough only she could hear. What I did for you was nothing, Grace. The world will someday know what you do for it. She smiled, a smile that looked like sunrise. And though she walked into graduation wanting only a dress, she left with something golden. A future earned. Dignity restored. A door opened, not by wealth but by courage. As they exited the hall side by side, high heels clicking against marble, gown trailing like destiny, no one knew what lay ahead. Perhaps partnership. Perhaps love. Perhaps a legacy greater than either imagined. but everyone agreed. What he did for the girl who only wanted to borrow a dress would be remembered forever.